Over the next few days, we will be getting some sectoral response to the individual departments and ministries that have been announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa. I'd particularly like to know what happens to state-owned enterprises now with the Department of Public Enterprises no more. I'm going to be talking about the now newly formed Electricity and Energy Department headed by Josienzo Ramagopa. The Ministry of Mineral and Petroleum Resources now continue to be headed by Gayton McKenzie, but energy now been taken out of that portfolio. I want to talk about the splitting of agriculture and land reform, now respectively headed by the Democratic Alliance and PAC. But let's talk about sport, recreation, arts and culture. Often seen and often joked about as this ministry of congratulations and condolences. You've had arts and culture activists who have not just recently but for many years saying that this department needs to be split. The cultural economy is not the same as the sporting economy in South Africa. Ismail Mahomed is an arts and culture activist. Your response to Minister Gayton McKenzie, who now heads up sport, recreation, arts and culture in South Africa. Ismail, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to engage with you and your listeners. I think the bottom line is that the cultural and creative economy never had any high expectations of President Cyril Ramaphosa to appoint a high-ranking official as a Minister for Arts and Culture. The ANC over the last 30 years have shown absolute disdain for the cultural and creative sector. So it's no surprise that a contentious or a controversial person has been appointed to this particular post. I'm of the view that regardless of what his background is, the challenge is to see how the cultural and creative sector holds him to account and what he delivers. Bottom line is that the laws of South Africa make provision for anyone to either stand for election or not to be able to be in Parliament. The fact that, unlike Jacob Zuma, who was stopped by the legal processes from being a member of Parliament, Gayton McKenzie has not been stopped from being a member of Parliament. He's been elected by its constituency, and as such, the decision may not be popular, but it's one that is legally protected.
I'd like, without drawing into the personalities or the characters of people who've held this position, I would argue that Natim Dekwa largely saw sports, recreation, arts and culture as somewhat of a demotion, him being once upon a time a police minister in South Africa. I saw some green shoots with Zizi Kodwa, particularly with his focus on arts and culture, but we have tend to send people to this ministry. If I must be crude about it, Ismail, the minister who sits in a VIP box and with a South African flag, and when South Africans achieve on a sports or cultural stage, wishes congratulations. And if there is a notable South African who has passed on, it is a ministry that offers condolences, Ismail.
It's historic. The ANC has never appointed a single Minister of Arts and Culture that has merit, that has integrity, has an understanding of the cultural and creative sector, or has a passion for the arts. Gayton McKenzie is not any new. It follows in the ANC's tradition. The president has followed in the ANC's tradition of appointing somebody in what is considered a undervalued ministry of government. It's nothing new. It's happened. We've seen that with every successive minister appointed by every successive president in South Africa. Ironically, in 1996, Nelson Mandela did appoint a member from the IFP to be the Minister of Arts and Culture, and that was the only year where significant progress was made in terms of developing legislation, policies, and structures that could place the arts and culture sector on a good footing. Every year, every subsequent minister since then has been considered as irrelevant, as somebody that has no understanding, no intention, no will. So it's not the problem of who is appointed, it's the problem is, do government, does the president really value the arts? The answer is, despite the fact that they quoted Hugh Masekela with Tumamina, the president has no respect for the arts whatsoever.
And is this important economic driver, not just for individual artists, but for a arts and culture economy? And all these directorates, all this legislation that can speak and draw and grow a arts and culture economy, whether it be the funding of a film and TV sector through the National Film and Video Foundation, whether it's the National Arts Council, whether it's providing impetus and support to music and what that does to an overall cultural economy. We shouldn't just be talking about sports, arts, culture and recreation as some sort of a daycare operation simply just to keep children busy in our communities. Ismail, this could be
Absolutely.
a very important economic driver in this country.
Absolutely. The cultural sector makes an incredible contribution to the GDP of the country. And even though it may be smaller in terms of other comparables, it is an incredibly important sector. It also generates a significant economy. But the cultural sector does not only generate employment and an economy for its own sector, it has a spinning effect. When a cultural festival, an arts festival takes place, it is the entire city or the entire town or village that benefits from that. It provides employment for people from car guards to cleaners to printers to publishers to people who provide sound technology to venues. There's a whole spin-off economy that benefits from the arts and cultural sector. And I think that the crucial thing is that government continues to see art and culture as a hobby activity or as a recreational activity. The government has not understood that culture and creativity is a source or is the heartbeat of innovation, of progress, of building a cohesive society, but more than anything else, it is a generator of economy.
Ismail, what's Gayton McKenzie going to need to do to gain your confidence as minister?
Well, I think the first thing they will probably have to do is to break down some of the things that Nathi Mthethwa has entrenched. And one of that is to dislodge the federation that Nathi Mthethwa had entrenched, SIFSA, as the governing, as the kind of authoritative body to represent the arts sector. SIFSA does not represent the arts sector. It never has. It has been clouded by mismanagement of funding that it has received. And if Gayton McKenzie continues to work with SIFSA, he will not have the confidence of the cultural and creative economy. That for me is incredibly crucial. Third, he has to have to oversee the performance management of the DAC, because the problem is not so much whether we have a competent minister or not. We have never had a competent and accountable Department of Arts and Culture. People in that department are entrenched in their position, and they are responsible for making every single arts and culture minister fail.
Ismail Mahomed,
is crucial.
Really appreciate your time, arts and culture activist. Thank you so much for doing this.